This video provides a short summary of the book Behavioral Mechanics. I'll note the surprising effects of serotonin and dopamine interactions on human populations, especially male populations in the United States. The book has three major ideas, each matching a hypothesis originally formulated in separate and original academic papers written between 2017 and 2024. First hypothesis is seasonal pollen-driven changes in histamine produce serotonin spikes that push mentally ill human males over the edge, causing mass shootings in the United States. The second hypothesis, histamine versus serotonin biochemistry, can be considered as a creativity pump and an alternative explanation for the success of Western civilization nations. The third hypothesis, a dopamine cycle in the human brain is the cause of drops in the stock market every 40 days. First, we'll focus on the neurotransmitter serotonin. The first hypothesis is that seasonal pollen-driven changes in histamine produce serotonin spikes that push mentally ill male humans over the edge, causing mass shootings. In essence, the severity of the effects on organisms, especially human males, of histamine and serotonin biochemical interactions has been vastly underestimated in the scientific community. A key theme in the book is the relationship between pollen, thus histamine, and serotonin in the human body. As pollen increases, histamine in the human body increases. This causes a subsequent drop in serum serotonin. Modern research has confirmed this inverse relationship between histamine and serotonin. Thus, as pollen and histamine drop, serotonin will increase or spike. People wonder why most mass shooters are male. The answer is almost certainly tied to research showing that human males have 52% more serotonin than females. Humans, like all life, are sensitive to their environment, and we know that mentally ill or unstable individuals can be triggered into impulsive and violent activities from spikes in serum serotonin. Research data in the book shows a clear correlation between the dates of violent acts, especially male single-shooter mass shootings in the United States, and the dates of decreases in pollen levels. The hypothesis proposes that pollen and thus serum histamine level drops are a precursor or trigger to violent acts by human males. Data from public online web pages like pollen.com and weather.com of pollen levels in given cities or zip codes, when compared to the dates of gun violence or mass shootings, show a clear association between the date of violent acts and the dates of dramatic decreases in seasonal environmental pollen allergen levels. This model can be useful for law enforcement, clinical psychologists, and public safety officials. Having a heightened level of risk and increased social monitoring during the known specific times of the year in each city or region when seasonal allergen or pollen levels diminish can lead to saved lives. On this slide, 15 fall mass shooting examples are shown as red dots on top of a diagram showing U.S. cities and their ragweed levels by month, from north to south. Note how every mass shooting example occurs after the peak ragweed, or completely after ragweed season ends for the season, and occurs in a pattern that aligns with the dates of winter frost by latitude. Note too how the end of ragweed season by latitude occurs diagonally as winter frost cold temperatures begin in the north and slowly move to southern latitudes. The next few slides show how online data from websites like pollen.com reinforce the ideas in this book, where pollen drops cause serotonin spikes that cause human males to act impulsively and violently. Here we see a mass shooting at a Georgia Asian spa on March 3, 2021. It coincides exactly with a large drop in environmental pollen as seen on pollen.com. Here we see a Boulder, Colorado King store mass shooting on March 22, 2021. It occurs right after a dramatic pollen level decline. Here we see a mass shooting at a Boise, Idaho mall on October 25, 2021. It occurs exactly as the fall ragweed pollen level declines to zero. Examining mass shootings in the fall of 2025, we can see the near perfect correlation with our model of events and the given cities by latitude versus the event date compared to the end of fall ragweed dates in the red trend line. The second hypothesis is that areas of dense pollen create larger changes in serotonin levels. In other words, a higher serotonin slope, and thus lead to individuals and communities with greater creativity and even increases in innovation and genius. In essence, histamine versus serotonin biochemistry is a creativity pump and an alternative explanation for the success of Western civilization nations. During spring, summer, and fall pollen seasons, but primarily in the larger spring and fall seasons, we can see from a generic graph of pollen level patterns where 4 points show where creativity will be the highest. On these days, ideas, seemingly out of nowhere, will pop into the heads of individuals as the up or down change in serotonin levels is very large. In other words, when there is a very high serotonin slope. Modern research has confirmed the association with serotonin to creativity. This idea is thus extended, starting with a map of ancient pollen locations, seen in yellow, from fossil records. The location of Western civilization defined nations in Europe and in the United States within the largest global pollen environments on the planet is proposed as a key factor leading to their success. Here we see a map of ragweed distribution in Europe overlaid on a political map of Europe. The key intellectual capitals of Europe lie within the dense ragweed pollen zones. The combined images show a significant association with pollen density and these intellectual capitals, including Paris with Picasso, Van Gogh, and Marie Curie, Vienna, Austria with Kurt Gödel, Ernst Mach, Ludwig Boltzmann, and Sigmund Freud, Budapest with John von Neumann and so many other brilliant Hungarians, the German cities of Munich with Einstein, Salzburg with Mozart, Nuremberg with Leibniz, Milan, Italy with Da Vinci, and Zurich, Switzerland with Carl Jung. These cities have the largest serotonin slopes and thus produce individuals and aggregate populations with higher levels of creativity and intellectual performance. Now we'll cover the effects of the neurotransmitter dopamine. The third hypothesis is that a 40-day-long dopamine cycle exists in the human brain, and it aligns with drops in the United States stock market. In the 5 years that this methodology has been used and monitored, every year showed positive gains, almost well above, or always well above, the S&P 500 growth for the given year. Research revealed a dopamine cycle or clock in the human brain. The winter solstice on December 21st is considered as the start of the first cycle, and there are 9 40-day-long cycles in any given year. The cycle starts with a 10-day-long low dopamine phase, immediately followed with a 10-day-long high dopamine phase that is then followed by a 20-day-long normal dopamine phase with calm and focus before the entire cycle repeats. The key observation of the dopamine research showed that every 40 days, on the same day each year and 1 day more on leap years, 5 days before the first day of the dopamine drop, subconscious anxiety spikes. This is seen in the aggregate population as stock market confidence fades, causing a large market drop. Thus, that first anxiety day becomes a sell high, and the 5th day, the start of the dopamine drop, a buy low date, 9 times a year. Here we see a screenshot of the Robinhood mobile app showing the values of the Spider S&P 500 ETF stock market indexed fund for a week in March 2022, where the March 5 sell high of cycle 2 and the March 10 buy low of cycle 3 are seen, along with a screenshot of a $500 purchase of Spider shares on the buy low date. The model exactly matched or predicted 3 major market drops in the spring of 2025, all seen on the cover page of the New York Times online newspaper. I hope you have enjoyed this short video summary of my book, Behavioral Mechanics, and I hope you read and enjoy the book too. Thank you.